And the second vestment is the garment of the fool, which is the owl. Because remember when our Lord was brought before Herod, Herod couldn't condemn him. He had no power. So he mocked him. He mocked him because our Lord would not speak to Herod. So Herod mocked him, called him a fool, and gave him a white garment. This loose white garment, which is a sign of an imbecile, that he had insane. So they gave him the garment of a fool, threw it over him, and then sent him back to Pilate. And so that Christ is a fool. St. Paul says, "You're a fool, but I am more a fool for Christ." The foolishness of the crucifixion, the foolishness of the life of the priesthood. And then here, the next is the scourge. That's why it's got tassels on it, the cincture. And the scourging of our Lord. And of course, the symbol for the virtue of purity. And the next vestment of our Lord, the scourging of the pillar. And after he's scourged, then he goes to the crucifixion. And then we have the first sacred priestly vestment, which is for the major orders. We take the vow of perpetual chastity when we become subdeacons. It's a maniple. And the maniple is the handcuffs, to which Christ was tied. When you become a religious, you become a priest, you enter, and you're tied to the church, and you're tied to your duty of state, and you're pulled away from the world, and you're no longer of the world. And so they have this, and also it's a reminder that the priest has to work. They threw this vestment away. The first vestment they threw away at Vatican II was this one. It's a symbol of the subdeacon wears this vestment. Sometimes you see a solemn high mass, you'll see a deacon and a subdeacon. And if the subdeacon doesn't have this, we call him the scrub sub. It means he's a seminarian. You have to be a seminarian to serve subdeacon, but he's not a subdeacon yet. So he can wear the dalmatic, he can wear the tunic, we call the tunic. He can sing the epistle, but he cannot wear this vestment. Only a real subdeacon in major orders can wear this vestment. The other vestment, so if you see a solemn high mass and you see the subdeacon, you see the deacon on the right side, subdeacon on the left side. If he doesn't have this, it means he's a fake. We call him the scrub sub, right? So the subdeacon, his job during the mass is to clean. Also, when the priest is sweating from the work, you take this and wipe away the sweat. So it's the manipulum flatus dolores, the maniple of weeping and sorrow, and it's also a symbol of the reward, because it says they will go sowing, weeping. They will come back with their maniples, which means bundles. Maniple means a bundle. It's also like when you wrap it around your arm. Also, it can be kind of a bundle, but a bundle. You hold a bundle of wheat. It's a maniple. So they will go out weeping and sowing. They will come back with their maniples rejoicing. And so this says, may we go out weeping and sowing, come back rejoicing with the maniples. And so that the priest has to work. And then the next vestment is the stole, which is the cross. Christ carried on his shoulders, going up to Calvary. And it's the main priestly vestment that we wear most of the time. When we don't wear any other vestment, we have the stole. The stole, because every blessing that comes to a Catholic comes from the cross. And so whenever we carry a blessing, we carry the cross. So this is the cross being carried. Normally the stole is worn straight like this. But during Mass, we're not just carrying the cross, but being crucified. During the Mass, it's a crucifixion, not just the carrying of the cross. So therefore, during Mass, and only during Mass, we take the cross and put it in the form of the crucifix, like that. So when we're normally doing a blessing, it's like this. But during Mass, and only during Mass, go like that. A bishop does not do this. A bishop, he doesn't wear his stole like this, because he has the pectoral cross, and he's supposed to always be on the crucifix. So therefore, when the bishop says Mass, he puts the stole like that. Right? Because he's always supposed to be on the cross. He's supposed to already be a saint. He's supposed to always be nailed to the cross. And so that's why he has the pectoral cross. And because of that, he doesn't fold. But the priest is not yet in the fullness of the priesthood. He is not always nailed to the cross. Therefore, during the Mass, he folds. And that this is when he is on the crucifix. The bishop is supposed to be on the crucifix always. Not just during Mass. The priest is on the crucifix only during Mass. And then the most sacred vestment, the chasuble, which is this is the crucifix. That's why it always has a cross on the back. And so this is the priest nailed to the cross. This only happens during the Mass, and it's also the sign of the charity of Christ. All the love of God comes through the crucifix. The original chasuble was a perfect circle, because the circle has no beginning and no end. It's got practical problems though when you wear a perfect circle. For instance, the priests always used the old chasubles are perfect circles, and of course it goes down beyond your hands, and you have to take it and pull it back. And then over time they started shortening the circle until it became the Roman chasuble, right? And so by the 1500s, the circle got to be like this. They call it the fiddleback, and so that. The Gothic chasuble is a circle, but the circle, they just kept shortening the circle this way because of the practical problems. So if you only go a short circle, then it doesn't go down very far. If it goes down far enough, then the circle is all the way back, and then they have to fold it over. And then so that but then it's a symbol of the crucifixion. Christ nailed to the cross. And then also we say that the vestments of Christ, because he's God, Christ's vestments are bloody, because he had to prove that he's a man. Whereas the priest is clearly a man. He's an average man who has been given a sacred function. Therefore, he doesn't have to prove that he's a man. You can tell by, his eating habits, cursing habits, other habits, that he is a man. Right? But, therefore, he has to prove his divine connection. And therefore, he has the sacred vestments to prove this, that he is another Christ, and he is a human, which is obvious, but he is also divine. Christ is God, and after seeing all his miracles and the resurrection, we would not believe that he was really a man. We think it was just a chimera or something. So he had to prove that he is truly a man. The priest has to prove that he's truly another Christ. And so that's why the sacred vestments. And so and then this is, remember, if a woman must keep her head covered during the church, because the hair is the glory of the woman, and she should not show her glory before God. Whereas for a man, the hat, especially in olden days, nowadays nobody cares, the hat signifies his power. The hat signifies his glory. So if he's a king, he has a crown. If he's a police officer, he's got a police officer hat. And then remember the wigs that the judges used to wear? Every hat signifies the authority and work of a man. And since a man must humble himself before God, therefore he's required to remove his hat when he comes into the church. The glory of the woman is her hair, therefore she's required to cover it when she comes into the church. But the priest, however, is the boss in church. So the priest is in charge in church, therefore he wears the hat in church, and no one else does, no other man does. So that the king is not allowed to wear his crown, but the priest wears his biretta, which signifies it's a square hat on a round head, because we don't do things normal. Right? And so the four virtues: prudence, justice, temperance, fortitude. And again, it symbolizes the authority of the priest. And of course, the three theological virtues is the three things that actually happened practically, because it was just a square hat, and when you had to put it on, you had to grab onto the top of the hat, take it off, and it created an indentation. And then they went ahead and built up the indentation and made three. And then if there's a canon in the cathedral who has a special authority, he's allowed to have a fourth one, right? But normally it's just the three, and then priest and bishop wear the hat, and it's a sign of jurisdiction. So we wear it when we walk in, wear it when we walk out, whenever we're sitting, theoretically when preaching, and also when hearing confessions. But it's not the custom to wear it all the time. But so whenever you're using, you see a picture of St. John Bosco hearing confessions, he has his biretta. So that whenever using authority. In fact, you see one time he has a biretta but no stole. Sometimes when you see one of the pictures of him wearing, he is not wearing a stole, but he's wearing a biretta. So it's a signifying of the authority. So in any case, then of course it's removed during most of the Mass because of the fact that the priest is obviously adoring God. When he's dealing with the people, he's got the biretta. When he's dealing with God, he does not. So in any case, we'll go ahead and begin here.